Hello, hello. I am super excited to be on for my first Mom Talk Monday since the little one has arrived. So, welcome to Mom Talk Mondays with Michelle Darna, your digital legacy mentor. Today, I just wanted to kind of check in, and I've had some people talking to me and asking me about how it started and what all was going on this time whenever I went in to have her. And so I thought it would be fun to just pop in and kind of touch base because this was definitely very different than my births in the past. So I want to kind of start by saying, like, I've kind of had like all these different styles of birth now. So I've done, when I had my first daughter, I was 19 years old and I went into labor naturally. I got an epidural, and it was a long labor. They had to end up using the vacuum to get her out. But other than that, uneventful. And then my second daughter, that was an induction. And all of them, my first three, were all three, I think they were a week past their due date. So with my second daughter, we went in and they were like doing a scheduled induction. So we go in, they basically just had me lay down. They gave me my epidural. They gave me whatever they were going to give me to induce me. And then I took a nap and they woke me up and they were like, hey, it's time to have a baby now. And I'm like, okay, awesome. And then I had a baby. And then with my third daughter, I had gone in and I was telling them that I was having contractions, and they were like, but um, you're not dilated enough. So they said, come back later. And so we went home, and it just kept getting like more and more intense for me, but I just thought like I wasn't supposed to go back in yet. And so eventually it got to a point where we knew that it was time to go, and my husband had to drive me in. I was just walking around, like I would have a contraction and I was like, I never learned how to like breathe through these things or anything like that because I've never had to have a baby without an epidural at this point. So it's like a different experience for sure. He rushed me into the hospital very quickly, and then he wheeled me in a wheelchair, and I got in there, and pretty much I laid down and they broke my water and I had her in one push. So that was a totally different experience. But I will say that the recovery from having a baby with no epidural compared to the two before, where I did have an epidural, the recovery was way faster. I felt much better. And if I could have chosen that again, then I would have chosen to go ahead and get no epidural again and go natural. So, I mean, just from those experiences, that was definitely the way that I wanted to go. So then this is my fourth pregnancy. And this is my first pregnancy over 30. I don't really know like how much of a difference that makes, but so with Lydia, we had some more concerns than I've ever had with any of my other pregnancies, and there was some circulation issues with the cord and her placenta. So the high risk doctor said, we're not going to go past 38 weeks. So it's right around Christmas time, and he was like, we're going to go ahead and we're going to wait. We're going to get you through Christmas, and then we're going to get you induced. So I called in on the morning of the 26th, and they said they didn't have any times that I could come in and get induced yet, to call back in the evening. But then I got a call and they told me to come in. And so this is when it gets kind of crazy, because they called and they told me, yeah, come on in. We're sorry that we couldn't get you in this morning. We're going to schedule you for an 8 p.m. induction. And congratulations, pack a bag. Like this lady on the phone was telling me I was coming in to have a baby. So I didn't think anything of it. And then we get there at 8 p.m. on the day after Christmas. I had gone over to my mom's, cooked dinner. We ate dinner. My kids were staying over there. My husband and I were heading up to the hospital. We have a hospital bag. We're going to have a baby. And then the lady's like, oh, you're supposed to call to see if we have the availability. And I'm like, well, you guys called me. And after I talked to her that morning, it was the same lady I talked to in the morning. They had called me back and she's like, well, we wouldn't do that. I don't know who would do that. And basically was just making it like I was just making it up. And it was super crazy because personally, like, not only did I know that there was stuff going on with the circulation, but I could tell that her movement was just way less than it had been in the previous weeks over these past few days. So I asked the lady, I was like, okay, well, technically I could just come in through induction, right? Or not induction, but triage. And she's like, oh yeah, well, we don't really have any triage beds either, but you can do that if you want to. It's not a guarantee that you're going to get in, just kind of acting like I'm just trying to make them induce me. And so I told her, I said, my high risk doctor told me you're not to go past 38 weeks. And we had already pushed it. I was at 38 weeks. So I said, so when is it that I'm supposed to be concerned about this? And for me, like, I don't usually say anything and I don't stand up about things. So it was a big deal. I don't know, like, if that's something that you struggle with, let me know in the comments. But I always struggle with like telling somebody, or I guess like advocating for myself is something that has been difficult because I don't want to seem like annoying or be that kind of person. But I'm glad that I kind of said something. So she had us go get something to eat. We called back an hour and a half later and she was like, I can get you in at 12. So this is 10:30 at night now. So we went home for about an hour. I went ahead and took a nap and we went back in. I was already having contractions for like a few days. I wasn't sure if they were just Braxton Hicks or whatever, but they seemed pretty consistent. And but I have a pretty high tolerance for it. So as long as it wasn't like anything crazy, I just didn't think anything of it. So they bring me in, get me in a room, all of that. They start monitoring the baby. And every time that I'm having a contraction, her heart rate is dropping a lot. So they said it was called decel. So I could just tell that it just wasn't right. They said, let's try to have you lay on your side this way. Let's try to have you lay on your side that way. And I tried all these different things. And then by 6 a.m, the doctor came in and said, we're not able to induce you because we don't know how she's going to react to the drugs and things like that. And we don't want anything else to negatively affect her. And then they said, we might be able to break your water. But when they checked, she was still really high up. So they couldn't actually do that. I guess there's some kind of risk of your cord going out first, and that can cause like serious problems. And so I learned all these things because I'd never had to personally deal with this stuff before. I don't know, like, drop in the comments what your birthing was like. Did you just have an epidural? Have you had a natural birth? I would love to hear other people, how it's been for you. So at this point, I could kind of tell, and my husband and I could kind of tell that they were probably going to be suggesting a C-section. And so in my head, I'm just mentally preparing for that. I'm telling myself, like, people get this all the time. And I do know a lot of people that have gotten them, but personally, I had never had one before. And it's definitely a scary thought. It's a major surgery and all of that. So let me know if you've had a C-section. I've actually recently learned a lot of people that I know have had them. Excuse me. And so power to you guys, because yeah, I'll get to that. So anyway, they told me that that was the route that we needed to go. They had somebody else scheduled for 8 o'clock. So if it was all right with me, we would just get in there and we would go and do my C-section and get her out so that we knew that she was okay. So I was all for it. And my husband was also just being supportive of my decisions and where we're at. We were both feeling positive about it because the main thing was just that the baby was going to be okay. So went back in there, you know, going in for a C-section can be like super scary and intimidating. He had to go get like his own kind of gown on, and I went into the room and they're just like prepping you. And I will say that it was just super nice that we had really great doctors in there that day and everybody was super supportive. My nurses were great. The anesthesia people were great. And so everything went really smoothly. It was really fast. And then we just went back to the room and waited to kind of see how things went for me. So it was definitely way harder on my body than it had been without having a C-section. So just, to put it into perspective, I've always probably been like, I feel like I felt like a normal human being, 3 weeks after. And right now I'm going on 5 weeks and I'm just now feeling like pretty well healed. I don't think it's like totally completely done, but I'm not concerned about the incision and stuff like that now. But to kind of backtrack a little, we'll talk about the baby and what was going on with her, just so that I can kind of update you guys on that. So I just know that recovery on these things, like I remember my friend Jessica, I don't know if she's watching or not, but she came over. She was in the hospital at the same time as me when I had my second daughter. She like walked over after she had her C-section. She's like, "Oh, they're making me walk." She just superwoman. She's a superwoman because I did not feel like walking. I did not feel great. I had a massive amount of swelling in my legs, and I ended up learning about the concept of having like gas trapped in like different areas of your body because I keep making this joke that it's like, I guess it makes sense that gas could be anywhere in your body because they've like cut your body open and then they have to sew you back up. And I was like, well, I guess I'm not a Ziploc bag. You can't just like push all the air out and then finish sealing it. So but it definitely wasn't fun to discover that you could have gas in your shoulder. So that sucked. And I just hope that I don't ever have to have gas in my shoulder again, because that was a horrible situation. And I did not even realize that that was a thing. So anyway, as far as Lydia goes, she ended up, they were monitoring her heart. So there's something called a PDA. And then I'm not a medical person, so if you know about this better than me, then feel free to educate me. But I'm just telling you, like from a mom's perspective, mom life, this is what I learned. So there's like a valve called a PDA on your heart that when you're a baby and you're inside of your mom, you use this to bypass like your aorta or something. It's for something, to bypass something. So anyway, your PDA, it's like this little tiny valve. It has to close after you're born, and then they can check your aorta. So it took days. I mean, I think while we were in the hospital, Lydia had to get about at least 3 different scans, echoes, I think they're called, on her heart. And that was checking for if this PDA is closed. And the reason why we were checking that to begin with, and a story for another day, is earlier in the pregnancy, we had gotten some abnormal blood work saying that trisomy 21, also known as Down syndrome, was something that she may have going on. So we want to be checking all of her organs, because that's the most important thing, is just that her body's working properly and that she's going to be healthy. So after she was born, we could pretty much just visually tell that she had some of the markers for the Down syndrome. And right now we're just waiting for her genetic testing to come back, but we're pretty sure that she does have that going on. But so her PDA had to close up. Because it was during the holidays, there was no way for me to schedule to go to an echo outside of the hospital. So I got discharged, but I had to stay in the room with her for a few more days. So we were in the hospital for about a week. And she also had jaundice for a day. We had to put her into the that blue light. I don't know if that's something you've ever had to go through with your kids, but that irritated her eyes, and she has had clogged tear ducts for this entire month, which is so crazy. And it just stinks because their little eyes are just crusted over, and you just feel so bad for her. So it was pretty eventful. Once we did go home, we went to the cardiologist 2 more times. Her PDA did finally close, and she only has a slight narrowing of her aorta. And so a lot of times that can be normal, not a huge concern, and it will grow with them whenever they grow. So we'll go back and check that up in March. So that kind of like wraps up the craziness and summarizes a little bit, even though it's been a few minutes. It's kind of a long story, but that just kind of wraps some of it up and kind of updates you guys on where we're at and what's been going on. I'm here for you if you need any support, if you have any questions, if you're dealing with any of the things that I recently have dealt with, because I know that I have had a few friends that have helped me while I've been, just kind of mentally going through this stuff. So I just want to show you guys a couple of things that have gone really well. So she has a little bit of a latching struggle. So whenever she's nursing, she's like, kind of like breaks her suction a little bit. And so I've been working with a lactation specialist and a speech therapist. Yeah. So did you know that you can get a speech person to help you like with a tiny little baby? Drop in the comments if you knew that, because I didn't know that. But I will tell you what, her name is Catherine Kadeshka. She owns My Yoga Speech Therapy in Hale Plantation. She's been doing tummy time with me. She's been helping me with some exercises for Lydia to help her get her latch better. And I tell you that Lydia, the baby, is just so tense in her whole body and her everything, that the exercises we've been doing have made a huge difference. She was having hiccups like multiple times a day before, and that has to do with like a communication error between like her mouth and her brain and her swallowing and stuff. And she's not getting hiccups as often. Now she's only getting them about once a day, maybe. So to see improvements in that actually in only about a week since starting the tummy time exercises, that's been really, really great. So I wanted to show you, because of that, I'm having to pump and then bottle feed. So I'm still using breast milk, but she doesn't really like to nurse unless I have a nipple shield. And then I usually only do it like in the morning. So did you breastfeed, formula feed? Tell me in the comments. Everything feeds them. So no judgments. Just nice to be able to connect with different people. I've used breastfeeding temporarily with the rest of mine and then went into formula, but I'm very determined this time to get the full year in. And it's definitely hard, like the amount of time that I have to take to do pumping and bottle feeding is a lot more than I expected, but I'm feeling good about it mentally, just continuing to stick with it. And so I wanted to show you guys this pump that my friend got me, because it is working really, really well. So this is called, it looks like the brand is like NCVI. See if I can put it up to this so you can kind of see it here. But the cool thing about it is literally this is the size of it. This is the whole pump. It's amazing. So like here's the set it down right here. That's all the size of it. These hook to the bottles that I don't know all the terminology of this stuff, but I'm just saying, like, who knew that you could just have this wireless thing with all these, there's like different modes, it's just that easy. It's like touch screen. It uses the same charger as my phone. And just to be able to go and sit wherever I want and use this and have it be so small has been really, really convenient for me. And I only have like one breast pumping bra, but I did get a really nice set of nursing bras, and I added those all into my Amazon store in case that you're nursing and you want something. They have good support. They're really easy to take on and off. And so those have been really, really helpful. And then this super cool pillow has been great. I love how it has this little back piece. So it kind of holds her in a little bit more than just the classic plain boppy pillow. Have you ever used any of these before? Drop one in the comments if you have. And so those are kind of just like the main things that I wanted to show you guys. And then this is the bassinet. It rolls super easy. It's really good quality. The other side just kind of goes down. It unzips, and that's been where she's been sleeping. It's really nice to be able to keep it next to the bed. And then during the day, I roll it into the closet. So that's just kind of some things that are helping me, and some of the updates on what's been going on. And I hope that, this was interesting to you. I know that birthing stories are like crazy to me, how different that every single one of them can be. And so thanks for hanging out and watching. And then next week on our talk, I have a special guest coming who has her own app, and she has been helping me with some OT and just the massive difference that it's made for our family to have someone there with different activities, different tactics, and as a parent, like having different ways of wording things with my kids to give them a more positive environment. I'm always working to be a more positive parent, and having other people there to kind of help me out with that and to have support just right at my fingertips. It's just absolutely amazing. And I can't wait for you guys to meet her and to see all of the cool things that we've been doing with that. And I hope that that can give you some tactics to help you out. So if you are somebody who has kids that are doing OT, or that maybe you just struggle a little bit with trying to get them to listen, maybe it would be a great day to tune in. So thanks again, and I will see you all next week.